Hey everybody, we are literally watching sedition in the Senate and a lot of stuff. So I decided to just hop on live and watch it with you live. This is insane, what's happening. And so I definitely want to engage. I'm like getting blown up, a lot of text messages. So let's talk about it together. I think many of us are watching it live. Some of us, I know I'm working from home. I've been working kind of nonstop. Like, you know what? This is a good time to just take a break, get on live, talk and chat with some friends. We can all process kind of what's happening together. So again, who's there, who's joining in. Let's talk about the seditious acts that are happening. And I'm going to be on my phone at the same time with you as we talk about it. And also looking up information and kind of fact checking. And Renadre, hey, my friend, beautiful as always. Renadre was one of the prettiest girls that I've ever seen in my life, and definitely one of the prettiest girls in Kemper County. So I'm happy that you joined. So I wanted to shout you out and give you your flowers right here and right now, beautiful. And I hope that you're well, and thanks for joining. You're correct. This is shocking. I think it is a little bit surprising. I'm going to tell you why I'm surprised by it. I'm surprised this is happening because the Republican senators, many of them, way more than there should be, I won't say many, but way more than there should be, have decided that they were going to support these actions, and way too many members of the House of Representatives from Republican controlled states who voted Republican, who voted for Trump, when they said they were going to support these seditious actions and they were going to come out against the actual Electoral College's decision, it didn't surprise. So that was disappointing. But the fact that now these Trumplicans are out here fighting against those people and demanding for those people is what I'm surprised by. Mitch McConnell has done absolutely everything that Donald Trump has demanded, and they're demanding and wanting him. Mike Pence has done everything that Donald Trump has demanded, and they're demanding him. Like, that is what's surprising to me, is that these men and women who have supported President Trump, you couldn't have given him more support. Kelly Loeffler and David Perdue lost their Georgia Senate seats because of the support of Donald Trump. There's no doubt about that. I am so thankful to the community organizers and to Stacey Abrams and all the people on the ground. I made phone calls. I sent text messages. I did a very small part and very little bit, like half of a penny's worth of work. But there are people who did, the very heavy lifting. The reality is there are more Republicans in Georgia than there are anything else. And no matter how you slice and dice it, when you take all the people of color in the state, it's still not enough to win any statewide elections. The fact that Raphael Warnock and Jon Ossoff are now the newest members of the United States Senate is a direct result of white Republicans who voted for them. They voted against Loeffler and they voted against Perdue, and a lot of that has to do with Donald Trump. So that's what makes this Renadre surprising. And Tanya, you know what? We are all sick. I'm sick too. And I agree, we don't need to give him any more time. Number one, Twitter needs to disable his account. He needs to lose his modem of communicating with his followers on a mass scale. And Twitter is the direct way that he sends out these dog whistles. It is the direct method that he gives people their demands and dictates, and it needs to be disabled. That's a large part as to why the United States House of Representatives refused to fight beyond and had to consent to the lower stimulus checks, is because of I want to say it was Bill 230 or something around that Communications Act, where they wanted to censor Twitter and other social media's ability to, one, tell the truth, two, fact check the truth, and three, be really there for the people. So we need organizations like Twitter to step up and disable him, part one. Part two, it's time for this man to be arrested. It's time for the United States House of Representatives and the Senate to invoke the 25th Amendment and literally make this man step down and stand down. And I don't know why he's not doing it on his own, or why he's not just resigning so that Mike Pence in a conciliatory prize could have simply pardoned him for all of the crimes against the American people that he committed. I really thought that's what he would have done today after Mike Pence refused to do any other nonsense that he legally couldn't do anyway. I really thought that then he would have stepped down so that he could have been pardoned, because this is really, getting out of hand. And the fact that, now this is the part that I think is most, Cerinthia says he's not that smart. Cerinthia, I think maybe it could be that it's not just that he's not that smart, it's that his ego will not allow him to do that. And, I don't know. Is he going to make moves against Pitts? I don't know. I don't know if he can at this point. Like, this dude has 13 more days in office. Can he legally, or, can he actually make any moves to get rid of Pence? Right. I'm saying it's the ego that is making him not resign. You know what, Jamel, when you talk about it, you think about it, the bottom line is it's his ego that caused him to put so much emphasis on Georgia. Look, even if Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger in Georgia would have found a way to steal and lie and get him these other 11,000 votes that he wanted, he still won't be president. The fact that he was so determined and focused on Georgia, so much so that he lost this election for the Republicans in this state, it is 100% the direct result of that ego. How in the world can I lose Georgia? How can I not have all of the red states in this country go for me? That's exactly what the issue was. So I think it's all about that ego and what he won't do with the ego. Thank you, Wendy. It's great to see you here. And, it's just, I think, facts. And so, yeah, and again, he's never cared about the legality of any of his actions, because he's always been above the law. When you can be supposedly a multi-millionaire and still not pay taxes to the United States government, or pay taxes in the sum of $700, then you don't care about the law, and the law doesn't care about you. Because if the law cared about him, he would have been arrested a long time ago, and he wasn't. So he literally thinks that he can do whatever he wants to do. Not only was he not arrested, not only was he not charged with the number of crimes that he's committed, he became president of these United States. And not only did he become president, he became president and received more votes than any other sitting president in the history of the United States of America, all of which is amazing and hard to believe, but reality, facts, and true. You know what? I hope he's not sedated. I want Donald Trump to experience the full removal of office and know exactly what that feels like. I absolutely do not want him to be sedated. I want him to go through the whole process. The bottom line is that this man will absolutely be forcibly removed from the White House. He will be forcibly removed from the White House if he does not go willingly. There's no question about that once President Biden is sworn into office. And so, yeah, once I retire, I believe that, so I have two philosophies around people who should be running for office. I do believe that people who, first and foremost, if you're called to public service, you ought to run public service. Number two, I definitely believe that we need more young people in office, and we need people who can support them, to guide them, mentor, and give them that support. But I also don't believe that it should be a second job. I think that when you run for office and you get, no matter what the seat is, many times it really needs to be your primary source of income so that you can really donate and dedicate the time to it. So I'm definitely going to run for office right here in the state of Georgia, local. I don't want to go national. I just want a simple local Georgia Senate seat or Georgia House of Representatives seat. And I just want to do well to bring about local change and make local change happen. So we got a lot of things to think about, though, even before that happens, to really think about 2022 and what needs to happen in every single state. And for all of my friends who are watching from my home state of Mississippi, we really talk about what you need to do right now to mobilize in the state of Mississippi, because Mississippi has more Black people per population than any other state in the United States of America. Mississippi also still has some very low and abysmal voter turnout numbers, and there are reasons for that we need to address and that we need to fix. How's it going, birthday twin? So yeah, you're gonna work on my campaign. You're gonna be right there with me, Carissa, the whole way, every step of the way. It's gonna be like going back in time to 2008 and you sitting up in my English class. Thank you so much, Wendy. I appreciate it. And, none of that's going to change. The stance is always going to be here because we all have a role to play. I didn't start doing lives and really doing this stuff publicly until this year, because that's the role that I knew that I could play to motivate, inspire, and mobilize people to do the work that has happened. But we need way more people to be doing the same level of work, right? Like on TikTok, if you look at TikTok and you've seen TikTok, there are a lot of people on there dancing. Now there's a whole new trend where people are like showing their butts and like clenching their butt cheeks to some song. Like that's the new thing. There is no reason for anyone my age to be on any app clenching butt cheeks unless you have to use the bathroom really bad and you're unable to find the nearest toilet. Like that's the only reason that should ever be happening. And it's being filmed without your awareness. It's our job to educate and do what we can do and use our level of expertise to elevate the conversation and to make it happen. And then look who showed up. Right as I'm talking about clenching your butt cheeks, Deborah Kirk, my one and only mother, pops up. It joins the chat. And so you're right, the 25th Amendment needs to be right now implemented, but it won't be, I don't think, unfortunately, because I don't think that the Senate Republicans and those who are in the House have the wherewithal or the fortitude to make it happen, but we need it. You're right. We are still red in Georgia. Like, let's not make a mistake and let's not get beside ourselves. We are still red in Georgia. And this is a great time to tell you what I think is going to happen in 2022 if we're not careful. Stacey Abrams and that whole entire machine did a whole lot of great work mobilizing volunteers. But within a year of having put in Raphael Warnock and John Ossoff in the United States Senate, people in Georgia are going to expect change to happen in their lives, because that's what we think politics is. We believe that electing Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to the presidency and the vice presidency of the United States will result in immediate change in our lives. We think that by having a 50-50 Senate with two senators who are Democrats that are always leaning towards the Republican side, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, I forget the other one being one, now, we're going to make it past this lofty, radical left agenda, as Kelly Loeffler will call it. The reality is those things are very unlikely to happen within a year. Because of that, people who have never voted, who now voted, are going to come out. They may not watch the news again. They may not be as well informed, because they're not going to seek out the information, and they're going to take stock of their life, and they're going to say nothing changed. And because nothing changed in my life, I'm not going to vote again. I'm not going to make that time sacrifice to do it. We have to be vigilant and educating people about how this works, that no one election, especially at the national level, will have a direct impact on your life. Your life is impacted by the local elections that happen where you live. When you elect someone to the board of supervisors, if you elect someone as a councilman, when you elect someone as a state senator, when you elect someone as a state representative, and you have to be civically minded and engaged to know these things are happening and be aware of how you can have your voice heard during that time frame. We are in the state of Georgia about to have a massive slate of legislation roll out that's meant to attack and tear down the right to vote. Our state legislative body, the General Assembly of Georgia, wants to undo all of the ability that we have for no excuse absentee balloting, which will have a huge impact on the 2020 election, because they know that they're not going to win that election. If they cannot hold on to two national Senate seats, there's no way they're going to keep the governorship. There's no way. You're going to end up with a full ballot of Democratic elected officials in the state if they don't stop people from voting. And so the 2021 legislative session will be about one thing and one thing only, and that is stopping people from voting. And in this state, the Republicans still have full control. We don't have one single Democratic elected official, not statewide, not one. We don't have control in the Senate or the legislative body, the House here in the state of Georgia. So we're definitely going to be at a disadvantage, and a lot of this, these risky laws can easily pass, but we have to be informed and we have to be on the forefront and be right there to stop it from happening. We have to. So let me check some of the comments. A lot of them came in. And again, I left off here. Yep. And we're still red. And you know what? I can't wait either. We have a lot of work to do in 2022 now, but this is the thing. People have to vote. If they're saying that they don't see changes and then their vote doesn't have a matter, or they're not aware of the changes and they're not abreast of the changes, then they're not going to come back out and vote. That's the problem. And so, Renadre, when you talked about Mississippi, that's, Mississippi voter turnout for President Barack Hussein Obama was at an all-time high for Black people. It still wasn't enough to turn the state blue. It still wasn't what it should have been. It still was far behind the number of Black people that are registered voters there, but it was still the highest it had been. And it has gone down because a lot of Black people they didn't come back out for him in 2012 because they didn't see change. And that's what they said when they were asked what happened. Well, nothing changed. And then the same thing happened. They haven't come back out to vote since. It takes a win to mobilize, motivate, and inspire people to vote. And that's what the state of Mississippi desperately needs. And we have to do the work now to flip that state and make it happen so that those 6 electoral votes will always go blue, because that's what they should be. Today's Democratic Party and their platform is a true advantage to the people of Mississippi. People in Mississippi need that stimulus. I'm fighting for stimulus. I'm begging for stimulus for the people that I know and love that need that money. $2,000 is a game changer to people, and it's the least the government can do to support them in a time of pandemic that the government caused and failed to support citizens. The fact that we have in the state of Georgia an 18-year-old who's been diagnosed with new COVID-19 strand is a clear indication of our nation's continued failure to protect the people. They're still failing. They're still failing to protect the people. Oh, that's a nice. My mother did a great job, and I stand, here on her shoulders, and because of the prayers that she had over me. And it really goes back, it's generational, to my great-grandmother, Elvira Watkins, and my grandmother, Alma Kirk, and my mother, Deborah Kirk, and my Aunt Renee Rush, and all the people that were in their circle, and all the friends they had, and all the people who prayed over me and said, bless this child, God, and give him everything that he needs to do your work on this earth, because that's always a prayer. It's not for me and what I can do, but what I can do to build God's kingdom. So thank you, cousin, for that compliment. And so we can become sheeple. Nope, we have to continue to fight for what is right. And we also, Tanya, you bring up a good point. We can't become sheeple because many of these Trump supporters are sheeple. But at the same time, we also cannot be so contrary, right? Like I always have said, Republicans are dogs and Democrats are cats, and it's almost impossible to herd cats. And President Trump was able to put Steve Bannon as a senior White House advisor. Steve Bannon is a noted white supremacist and has some of the most racist, ignorant beliefs of anybody I've ever seen put into a public position. Yet President Trump was able to do that because Republicans stood by and let him do it. We can't give that level of approval, but at the same time, we also cannot hyper scrutinize the decisions that President Biden makes that are what he feels he needs in order to advance our nation. We can't critique Merrick Garland as Attorney General just because we wanted, Deval Patrick. And I'm seeing a lot of civil rights leaders make that argument. They wanted Deval Patrick and they wanted this. We can't do that. We have to have faith that who we elected will do the right work for the people that elected him and her. And I believe that they will. And it's also, I may have a very heavy and strong social justice agenda, but that agenda may not need to be number one right now and today. Like there are bigger issues at play in America that may trump that, like ending the pandemic, like saving the economy. Because if people aren't alive because of the pandemic, or they've starved to death because of food scarcity or homelessness, there's no reason to have social justice reform because we don't have any people. Look at my mom's a true Leo. This is a Leo response. My mom, she's a sweetheart. And shout out to all the Leos. So politics is local, and we have local work to do that all of us can do and that all of us need to do to make it happen. So if you're from Mississippi and you have not joined, let me tell you the name. I told you I was going to kind of back and forth. And the name of the group is one of my favorite Facebook groups, and it was started by my good friend and classmate, Savannah, Mississippi Blue. So if you have not joined that Facebook group, you should. It's really great. It's very informative, and it really gives a lot of really good information. So again, our Trump supporters have been called to deploy. They're right there. And it really is, I think, kind of that like a crisis state. So I'm looking on at some of the updates, some of the notifications about what's happening and what's going on. We have very few people who are actually calling for the right thing to happen. We don't have it happening. You know, this is truly, they have a lot of great footage on Twitter where they literally have people who have stormed into the Capitol who are truly demanding people to come out and to take action. So it's really, it is shocking. Like, it's shocking. And so, yeah, protesters are not taking over the White House. They have stormed the Senate. They have stormed the Senate, and that is what happened. Literally, we do now have one person in critical condition. There has been someone who has been shot at the United States Capitol, and 5 people have been transported to the hospital. Per DC EMS, one of the people who has been transported is a law enforcement officer. Several officers have been treated for pepper exposure, but one person is in critical condition after being shot at the Capitol. That's a benefit, and why I really love Twitter is that many times you're getting a little bit faster than what you might get it on CNN. I know that the election results were called by David Wasserman, like last night, way ahead of time, and he was absolutely right in his call and in his prediction. So this is actually, you know, kind of what's happening. And when you look at why they're doing it, kind of question becomes, do these people really believe that Donald Trump is the rightful president of the United States of America after January? Like, that's what I've been grappling with. Like, do people really believe this? Like, is this possible that people can be so far gone and so far in a break from reality that they believe that, you know, someone who did not win the presidency is the president, that all of these states and all of these people will conspire against them to do something that would undermine what they want? Or is it just simply a matter of, I didn't get what I wanted and I refuse to accept it? And it's crazy because this isn't the first time people in the world, you know, that people who are politically aligned to one party have lost an election. You know, it happens all the time. So I'm just kind of stunned, you know, by the whole response up until now. Now, this part right here, so again, but I want to know what you guys think and why, like, what are your thoughts, you know, kind of regarding that, and if you're in agreement, or am I just kind of off base? You know, last night I always try to watch Fox News, but there's so many things wrong with Fox News beyond the inaccuracies. The people on Fox, the Fox News personalities are very difficult for me to swallow. The look they bring on television, the fact that so many of them completely, like, they were hired because of how they look and how they sound, and their some of them like the fan base, but they have no formal training in journalism. And so for someone who, you know, who loves this stuff and watches these all the time, it's hard to hear someone talk about news who really doesn't know the fundamentals of news, or maybe not even the fundamentals of like history, talk and be so misinformed. And then when you hear people who are informed talk on that platform, they're typically like attacked and berated and torn down in the process. So I tried to watch Fox News last night to hear what they were saying as the Georgia Senate results rolled in, and it was there, but it kind of wasn't. They kept going back to the president not really losing this election. And then it makes me say, like, if you hear these things from one news source, but every other news source is telling you something different, how can you believe that one news source? Like, how can that become reputable? Like, how can Newsmax and OWN, you know, One America News Network, how can those sources that have never had an audience all of a sudden become where you go to for like real news? Like, I literally have had people argue me that Newsmax is a credible news source. And so, you know, they really do believe it. And, you know, they hear it on a daily basis. But why would you hear something if you have CBS, NBC, ABC, all telling you, public news that have always given the news and always provided America with their information, the same story, but then Fox cable news saying something different? Why are you choosing to believe them instead of who's always been the go-to for, you know, for America? And you're right, Wendy, the protests are being handled very, very differently. And it's kind of disappointing and shocking. Like before this, you know, I was talking to my mom on the phone, and I said, I'm going to go live. And, you know, we were talking about it briefly. She took a break. I took a break. We had a very brief chat, and she was like, I don't understand what's really going on. And what was surfaced is that, you know, you have a right to peaceful protest and assembly. It is a guaranteed constitutional right. Many of our Black Lives Matter protesters who were protesting the unfair killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery were peacefully assembling. They had organized structures in place, and they continued to assemble, and they maintained that peace. The violence that you saw, or the things that resulted in people getting out of hand, many times of that was a result of outside agitators who were aligned to the radical right, joining in and trying to pretend to be members of Antifa or members of the Black Lives Matter movement, or they were trying to agitate and counter protest. That's when you had issues of violence that seemed to erupt based on what I could find in the news and look at it. But what you have right now, you don't have any Black Lives Matter or Antifa counter protesters out there. You just simply have people that are mad that Donald Trump is not going to continue to be the president of the United States or their president in office, because I'm sure in their minds he will still be president. And I think that, you know, the law enforcement wanted them to have their right to peaceful assembly. And I think that maybe it's getting out of hand a little fast. Now, I will say that last night things started to get out of hand, and they should have really already expected this to happen with so many protesters there last night and what they were doing last night in terms of attacking the police and cursing at the police and telling the police that their alliance in support of them was over. But they didn't. And so I am a little bit surprised, you know, about that. But again, you're right, never shocked. And it is a harsh reality. And you know what? He needs to be impeached and removed immediately. We need to vote 25th, but I don't think anyone's going to do it. We will see. And I need to actually look back, see who I think only the vice president can actually do this. And I don't think that Mike Pence would ever do this. And I think that a lot of people are really afraid of the wrath of Donald Trump. But I hope that last night's election results make a lot of Republicans who have been afraid to step up to him realize that it's over, that his real pull and power in many places has come to an end. And the evidence that I have to back that up is the fact that, you know, Donald Trump came to Georgia on Monday, and in Whitfield County, where turnout was low, that is a county, that's the congressional zone in Georgia. Whitfield was where he rallied, but the whole zone is where we have one of America's only two QAnon supporting representatives, Taylor Greene, who has really put out some crazy conspiracy theories and who tweeted out, and I think she might believe some of that craziness. Like, he came to that zone, and turnout at the rally was decent, but voter turnout was low. Fewer people voted in that election than voted in the presidential election. So that proved that his efforts to get out the vote didn't have an impact. And that's something that I hope Republican leaders realize, and they stop leaning to him and looking to him for leadership because he can't deliver. He can't bring the people. Joe Biden came to Georgia as well, and you see that turnout in Metro Atlanta far surpassed turnout in November. That is the type of leadership that people need to stand behind if you're wanting to engage in partisan politics. You know, yeah, you're right. And I think maybe they thought it wouldn't go here, but literally people stormed the the rotunda, and they broke through scanners. Like literally right now, people who are armed with weapons may right now be face to face or have proximity to senators. Like that literally right now, you know, could be happening. Yeah, and each attacker live, we'll talk about it right now, shameful, but maybe not, because again, we just, you know, it was just reported that there was, you know, there really was someone was shot, and 5 people have been put in. And again, more claims that the Defense Department has refused support and refused to deploy National Guard to support DC police officials. Is another, like right now, claim. And I'm seeing another, you know, there's some people who are live streaming, and actually some of the police officers are taking selfies with the Trump supporters and the terrorists. And, you know, like literally it was caught live, police officers chumming it up with them at this very moment. Thank you, you know, Rhonda. I'm an educator from when we met a long time ago. So we're going to continue on. I'm never going to stop doing it, no matter where life takes me. Trump was, you know what? I agree. He wasn't trying to get out the vote. He was really there in his own interest, trying to continue his support and possibly for his run in 2024. But you know what? I don't think that we need to really worry about Trump for a 2024 run, because you can't run from jail. Like, you can't be in jail and try to run. And I think that's exactly where President Trump is headed. I think he is headed to jail. I can't see him not. And it is a bunch of terrorists, a whole lot of terrorists, my friend, and thugs. And it's unfortunate that immediately when it starts to happen, that's not how they're being categorized. Like, we're not even calling them like domestic terrorists, which they are, and it's unfortunate. But we have responsibility to continuously call these people terrorists and continually highlight the fact that they are tearing and attacking down American democracy, and they need to be put in jail and tried for actual war crimes against the American government. They didn't break through, that they walked in. That's a really good point, is that there was, and the fact that our police departments around the country have been infiltrated with members of hate groups like the KKK and other white national organizations is a harsh reality that we need to address, and that we need to have, spoken about. That's why this election was so important in Georgia. It's not about the stimulus. It's not about the Supreme Court. It's not about housing or even affordable health care plans. Like, those things are important. They're a big part of the Democratic agenda. But really, it's about the Department of Justice having the authority to do the right work to prosecute people that violate the civil rights of other people. With the 1964 Civil Rights Act being so far repealed heavily and redacted greatly under the leadership of Chief Justice Roberts, which was a big part of why he wanted to be on the Supreme Court, and is actually like his most passionate point on the Supreme Court, we really needed to make sure that we had a legislative body that would pass laws that protected laws that are already in place. And thankfully, we're going to have that. But that, for me, was my biggest concern, because if things go to the Supreme Court, it's not going to work out in the favor of the people who want to uphold a fair and just America. It won't, but it doesn't have to go to the Supreme Court. And Joe Biden doesn't even have to pack the Supreme Court if the laws are made and never have to elevate or get there. Although they will be tried, some of them will be tried, and some of them will be, of course, tested through the court process. But luckily, the lower courts can make precedents and policies that when it's appealed, it will go back and it will not work to be overturned. And it is an ego booster for Trump. But I also, he is eating the foolishness up. But I also think that it is a wake-up call, I hope, for a number of Republicans in this country who are shocked and stunned by this type of behavior. And I think they're out there. I think that there was a beautiful clip that I saw on Twitter yesterday of Senator Romney being attacked by a QAnon supporter. Her Twitter handle was like Q Chick or Q something. And she sounded like a woman in her middle-aged woman, maybe in her 40s. And she was really like hammering him, kind of like verbally assaulting him, definitely in his face. And he handled it so well, with such grace and such poise. And it was even a level of kindness that I know that's why I can't run for office and get elected, because I couldn't have handled it in that way. And so I say that to say there are decent Republicans out there, and I'm hoping that those people are watching this and they're realizing the mistakes and the errors of their ways, and they're going to hopefully, change course and change some of the rhetoric and how they double down on hate. That is my hope. That is my hope. And so let me refresh my my Twitter and see exactly if there are any updates, kind of happening in the moment. Yeah, many people, there's just simple, nothing really. Again, they're asking for the National Guard to come and support not there. You had Lindsey Graham tweeting, "I support peaceful protest, but not violence and destruction. People need to leave the Capitol now. This is a national embarrassment." I don't know why he thinks that anyone's going to listen to him. These supporters don't like Lindsey Graham, nor do they support Lindsey Graham. Like Lindsey Graham, like I have no idea what he thought that people are going to listen to him. But again, he also fell far short of calling it what it is, a terrorist attack. And again, no support from the military in this moment, none whatsoever. And, there are several people now saying that this is exactly what people like Ted Cruz and Missouri Senator Hawley wanted to happen. In addition, there has already been discovered one IED found on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol. So people came to this event ready for chaos, mayhem, and mass destruction. Like literally, this is a bomb. Like there was, a homemade bomb found already that they know of. Imagine how many others. This is going to go down as a dark day in American history. And unfortunately, I also think that, it's going to be a real test. So these people are going to be brought up on, I hope, really harsh charges if our like justice system at the base level do what they're supposed to do. And they're going to go, the Department of Justice needs to really, again, that's why it's so important. And I'm thankful that we now have Merrick Garland there, someone who I know knows law and knows procedure. And, and if you don't recall, Merrick Garland was the Supreme Court nominee that President Barack Hussein Obama brought forth that did not get advanced because of people like Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. But they refused to vote on him for 9 whole months, but then ran Amy Coney Barrett down the throat of the American people. Hopefully, these people, like again, this is real terrorism. Like these people need to face charges that include treason, and unfortunately, probably suffer the consequences of that. And that would probably be the death penalty. Like this is an attack against the United States of America. This is an attack against the government. And I can't imagine, if we were willing to call for. If we were willing to go to war with a whole entire nation of people around without true evidence of the government's involvement, if we were willing to dethrone a leader of a nation, Saddam Hussein, behead him, and then have that be like a point of pride, and then wage a 10-year plus battle that costs trillions of dollars, then there's no reason why we should not arrest these people, hold them at a high level of accountability, and truly show the American people what happens with homegrown terrorism. So it's going to be really, I know I'm going to watch this unfold, over the course of the next year or 2 or 3 or however long it takes to see what we get. And we got a few more. President Trump is getting ready to address the nation. And so I am now going to stop live streaming so we can all go and see President Biden and hear what he's saying at this moment and then see what else is out there. And I will be back. I'll see you guys soon.